This recording I'm making on the 31st of August 2018. This is the final day for application for a grant which apparently has been set aside as a ring-fenced grant for main sheds throughout the country of €500,000 to be divided amongst main sheds, of which there are some 350. And expected therefore that it should be an average of €1,500 for each main shed. This is in some way in recognition of the wonderful work that main sheds are doing in Ireland, and recognising that the organisational difficulty that sheds have at their inception. So this was set up as like an easy entry process for the main sheds to help them and support them in the great work they're doing in the community. So this video is really my frustrated reflection on the crap that is present-day Ireland, and I just want to take the viewer through some practical, nonsensical elements of this. The first thing you might notice in that centre section here, this is a completed form by Skibbo, Navarre and Guidor. We've never got any grants from anybody to date, despite putting what I consider quite competent grant applications in. It says here closing date will be strictly adhered to. Strictly is the operative word here. So straight away from the very outset, as an invitation to people with a difficult entry barrier, we see negativities. So let's move on. There was terms and conditions. Again, these are high literacy terms and conditions being provided to main sheds who are trying to get off the ground. Right? Including it saying here, halfway through this, I'm trying to zoom in, you'll see underlined here, applications must include bank account details. So going down through, so in our group we've tried to fill in these forms as well as possible. And the other thing, on Tuesday of this week, that's 3 days before the closure, and members of the Guidor main shed travelled to Ballybofey, to where the Donegal network of main sheds were getting together to discuss getting the forms all into, because there's an effort to try and ensure that all the main sheds get over their problems and make sure that the applications are put in, because this is like a guaranteed grant. First time groups like us ever got anything. So I want you to read, perhaps the viewer might just read the section in the centre here. I don't have a pointer, but down in that black bolded section, I'll just read the following statement. Successful applications for funding under this programme will only be paid to the applicant's organisation's bank account. Now, I just remind you, earlier on I used the word strictly, the word strict adherence. It was up at the top here. Closing date, strict adherence is what we're told here. And I'm working in Ireland where I'm supposed to be able to read English. And it says here it can only be paid to a bank account. Well, note here, it's underlined, it's bolded. It doesn't suggest it can be a credit union. Now, if it should have suggested it was a credit union, then I presume somebody who's paid taxpayers' money to do this work should have written this. It goes on to say, please ensure you have your bank account details to hand if your application is successful. Now, my interpretation of the English language suggests it's an if statement. If depends on if this, then that. So I'll read this again in my grammatical interpretation of this. If our application is successful, then we will need to have a bank account details to hand. Seems not unreasonable, because why else? How else are they going to give you the money? Except, what happens if you don't have a bank account, but you have a credit union account? Because it's already said you have to have a bank account. So already we have a contradiction, only in the second line. Now I want to move on to a place which I have scribbled this out, and I'll explain why I did this. But it says, please ensure you submit your bank account / credit union account details with the application, i.e. a recent statement. Now, here's what I understand. Firstly, it now says bank / credit union account. This is in direct contradiction to 2 lines above, where it says only be paid to the organisation's bank account. Now remember, these grant applications were put together as a simple entry level, recognising literacy issues and access issues in organisational issues for a growing embryonic organisation like the main sheds, who's doing wonderful work around mental health and wellness. Now look, and I can tell you, my mental health reading this is really confused here, right? Now there's possibility of a credit union account, even though I'm told you can't, it has to be your bank account only. And then it says the details are, i.e. a recent statement. Well, let's say you have your bank account. Failure to submit same will deem application invalid. So now what these crowd are trying to give us all money, and I just want to say here, Joe McHugh, Minister for something, Junior Minister in Donegal, has been not slow out of the blocks to claim that he personally got all this money for the man sheds in Donegal. Now, I don't know whether he personally read this application, or anybody with any competence in any level of literacy or care or attention or duty of care might have bothered to read this and worked out maybe the difficulties that men sheds actually have on that ground. Right? This is a country where we're taking these actions as part of what's called governance after the crash. Governance. Now, this is this is the height of governance, let's say, folks. So I just want to move at the bottom of it. Says, okay, so the bottom is just about charitable status numbers, etc. So just to say here, again, organisations like I mentioned starting up charitable status numbers. So what we in the shed have been told by head office in the men's shed that we can use the charitable status number that is applied to the Irish Men's Sheds organisation because we're a member of that organisation. Okay? Now, again, I'm talking about strict adherence to detail. So I put this application in because at the meeting that I was at the other night, the voluntary coordinator for the Donegal Men's Network, who has been kept in the loop by the National Men's Shed Network organisation, who have done wonderful work extracting this money from the government, 500,000, imagine, for the magnificent work that men's sheds are doing on the ground, and finally we get some sort of a level of recognition. So I think this is wonderful work. But we were reassured at the meeting the other night. I read this contradictory statement at the meeting the other night. I was informed at the meeting by the voluntary coordinator who was collecting the applications to bring them personally into the council that this form had been, scrabbled together as a subset or from another original form, and these didn't really apply, etc. But more importantly, the other element of that meeting was we were told that if a group is successful in getting, say, €1,500, if you're granted the money, you will only then be paid the money back after you've produced receipts for monies that you've already spent. So you have to spend the money before you get the money. And this is being given to groups, and the reason for giving it is to get men's sheds up off the ground who can't even get going in the first place. So now we're saying we're going to give you money, but we can't give you money until you have the money of your own to spend so you can get the money back. And the man who was from O'Ville there pointed out that, as the logical extension of that is that only groups who have money will have the money to spend the money to get the money that they're going to get the money, and the rest of us who don't have the money will be cut out. And the objective of the exercise was to give the rest of us who don't have the money so we can get the money to have the money to apply for the money. And this takes brains. This is called bureaucratic bullshit brain work in this state in Ireland in 2018. Right? And even at that, so even if I try and comply, so what happens is we have a credit union account, but this says you have to have a bank account. So do I read this literally? Because I've been told, I've been sent an email today, so I'll just jump from this and I'll see if I can find my email, right? And just see the email that was sent to me today about this, right? And so I woke up this morning. This is now the last day of the month. I presumed so this is what comes in here. Now again, this arrived 16:49 yesterday evening. It would be unusual for me now to read emails on a daily basis because I'm not active. I'm a retired person. I'm not active in any activity that requires me to do anything other than pay my bills. It says, "Hi Liam, I refer to your application for a grant available under a Community Enhancement Programme. I note that you did not submit bank account details for same." Now, it didn't say credit union, it's in bank account details. The terms and conditions of the application form, page 2, as if I can't read, states that they are required to be submitted with each application. So now this guy, his name is Gerard Doherty. No harm to you, Gerard. I'm sure you're just one of the cogs in a square wheel running in a bad rut. And it's saying to me, it was demanding that I adhere to these requirements, although the document itself, the application form, then referred to credit account details. Please arrange to submit to their address by close of business today. That's by this afternoon, 31st of August. If you have any queries, please do not hesitate to contact me. Now, I just want you to know the last thing I need to do is contact this guy. The last thing I need right now in my life is more fucking stress. I don't need any of this shit. All right? So what I'm suggesting here is, if the effort here is to try and help people get across the line, why didn't these people make themselves available beforehand so I could talk to these people about this? Now, let me tell you some practicalities. If we get the money, right, the money has to be spent by, or the project, the work has to be completed by the end of the year. So it's very likely that groups might be well into the end of December before they've actually bought and paid for the last items. And it is well likely that in January or February they might get round to the paper. There's no professional people involved here with nothing to do but filling in forms. It could be January or February by the time they're looking for the money. We're now in 31st of August. Now, we've been precluded from breaking a grant application if we haven't supplied details of a bank, or a bank, not in a credit, it doesn't give us that option if we want to be literal about this, in advance, with no guarantee that we're going to get any money, when the earliest date of payment by these people to any account, according to them, would be after we've spent all the money, which is months away. Now, I just want to know, this is not, the idea of asset-based community development. It's like it's the complete perversion of support. Now, this is me writing, doing a little video because I'm interested in this stuff, because I constantly wake up in the morning and ask myself, does it matter? Does it really matter that men in men's sheds are getting together? And it's only if you've been around a men's shed that you see and feel the positive, life-giving, nurturing support of men being men in a safe, and not it's safe in, I don't mean the old PC safe space, in a place where they feel absolutely comfortable and supportable. And when I look at 16 billion of health costs being spent in this state, sending more forms, and the amount of money being spent on developing these community programs to get political kudos for people who want to get elected again, right? And now we say this, and will our grant be rejected as a result of that? And does that really matter, right? So I've just woken up this morning and had this for my breakfast. I'm not a happy camper, but of course, if we follow the stupidity with more linear stupidity, and we expect to have an outcome which will be successful, which in Irish terms is what will be. I will play the game, because it's a game. It's a game going nowhere for no reason, using rules that don't make sense even to the people who write them. So, if people are going to write English words, they should mean what they say. Say what you mean what you say. If you're going to do that and set up the rules, and then, tell us all what you're doing. But this is not supportive of men in men's sheds working at the coalface. It is not supportive of that. Please note. Thank you very much for not fucking listening.